what's your scouting assessment of what Rice does well?
Um, well, they played through their big, probably more so than anybody we've played thus far. Fiedler, um, very smart, very skilled. I know he's getting a master's degree. He's getting his MBA in his fifth year, but he's also his basketball IQ is off the charts. Very many times you see five men get defensive rebounds, lead the break, and consistently make good decisions. He can really pass. They're good. They're a good back cutting team. Um, Scott's done a great job of figuring out what offense to run based on his talent, which all good coaches do. You know, you don't take your offense and say, "Okay, we're going to run this because this is what I like." Most of the coaches I've known have said, "Okay, here's what I've got. Now let's figure out what we can run for this team." And he's done an awesome job of that with Fiedler. The two guards around him, Evie and Mason, are both very good scorers, different ways. Mason's just really athletic. I think he's going to really blossom. He's got high ceiling. He's going to get a lot better. Evie's uh, left-handed downhill kid that can really make threes. Um, they've got a freshman that I think is going to be a really, really good player. Um, so it's a great get for Scott getting Keanu Dawes. I like him a lot. Um, he's done a good job filling in around them. Their bench guys are all skilled. Scott's always done a good job of recruiting guys that um, are offensive guys that can really score, whether it's off the bounce or catch and shoot. So every year we've played Rice, it's always been a challenge to figure out how to guard them.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to Greg Bailey now with KTRK. Greg, go ahead with your question for Coach.
Hey, Kelvin, good morning. I know this has just happened, but there's a proposal from the NCAA president to kind of shake up what they call the top tier of college athletics. Have you seen any of that?
No.
Could I just ask in general, he's talking about allowing what he calls the top tier of college athletics to enter into NIL deals directly with student athletes, begin to set their own rules with regard to transfer portal roster size. Would you be in favor of the schools having those kind of powers?
I haven't even looked. I don't even know. I have to see. You're talking about rules, right?
Yes.
Well, there's been no rules up to this point, so I'd have to see. This has been in effect since and for two years, and it's just been the Wild Wild West coming off a cattle drive, busting into the saloon with no sheriff in town. So you're saying, how would I feel about this? I have no idea. I have to really look at it and study it. So it's the first time I've seen a rule, so that's a positive that we're moving toward, at least trying to get all the cows in the corral. I mean, right now they're all over the place. So it's good to hear that they've, almost 3 years later, we're trying to figure out that we may need some rules. So that's a positive. I just don't know how to react to it because I haven't seen it.
Coach, thank you.
Thank you, Greg. We'll go to Chancellor Johnson with KPRC. Chancellor, please go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Kelvin. How you doing?
I'm good. Chancellor. What's popping?
Nothing much, man. So in college basketball, it's really hard to find really good and, more importantly, efficient scores. I can't remember the last time you didn't have one on your roster. What does it do for your offense to know that whether it's late in ball games or in dry spots, you have a guy that can, hey, go get us a bucket when needed, like a LJ Cryer?
Yeah, well, like you said, I've always had one. I've never, except the first year here, but our first year we didn't have the transfer portal. If we had the transfer portal when I came here, you go shop around for one. Early in the shop around process, to get that kind of guy, you probably need to go to Neiman Marcus and whereas with us, we got into the late rush over at the Dollar General and didn't come up with a whole lot. But yeah, no, all the good teams do. I can go all the way back. I remember my first year at Oklahoma, I had as good a offensive weapon as I've ever coached in Ryan Miner. He was drafted by the Baltimore Orioles and he was drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers. I actually had two kids like that. Mark Hendrickson was drafted by Philadelphia and I think Toronto, and Ryan was drafted by the 76ers in Baltimore. Ryan's answer to a great trivia question: when Cal Ripken Jr.'s career ended, who replaced him at third base? It would be that Ryan Miner. He's also the Big 8 Player of the Year that year, along with Big Country Reeves from Oklahoma State. But we played through Ryan. I remember playing Kansas when they were ranked #1 in the nation. You guys have to look this one up. I think he had 32, 34 that night. But you got to have somebody you play through. Basketball is not a democracy when it comes to offensive distribution, i.e., offense is not an equal opportunity position. Your best shooters in important times, you need to have somebody you can go to and get a bucket, and we've been very lucky here, for instance, going back to Rob Gray. Rob Gray was a bucket getter. He left here as the all-time leading scorer in the history of the American Athletic Conference. Damian Dotson was right behind him, bucket getter. Corey Davis, Armani Brooks, that group. I think they both made over 100 threes in the same year. I'm trying to go in chronological order here. Who was after them? Quentin, and then Marcus, and now LJ. And when LJ leaves, we'll have somebody else in that spot. So we've never not had it. So it's just. But I think the thing that gives me some excitement about this team is I don't think we're scratching our surface offensively yet. We're not making shots. Emmanuel's sprinkling in a bunch of 2 for 10s. He's got, Terrence got some 1 for 9s. Those guys can score. Emmanuel's a good offensive player. He just hasn't found his footing yet. Terrence is coming along. I'm really pleased with the way Terrence is practicing. That's going to carry over eventually, because once you learn to practice well, playing in games is just a matter of time. So just getting our guys' confidence and in the system and getting them going. Once the season starts, from the coach's lens, I'm still trying to replace the number 8 pick, the number 25 pick, and the guy that started every game. I haven't replaced those guys yet. We're not comfortable yet. I got guys in their first month and 5 days. So we're nowhere near where we're going to be, I think, a month or 2 from now.
We'll go to Joseph Duarte from the Chronicle. Joseph, please go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Kelvin.
Good morning.
Kelvin, I was wondering, I believe yesterday you were there to hear Willie Fritz talk and mention.
No, I wasn't there. I grabbed him before he walked in and just I started getting to know Willie when we had the head coaches meetings. All the football head coaches, basketball head coaches would meet down in Boca Raton for head coaches meetings with all the American Athletic Conference people, and we'd have 2 days of whatever it was we were doing. And so I know Willie, and I know his daughter Lanny, who interviewed me several times when she was working for, can't remember what TV station that was she was working with. And so yesterday was really, really busy day for me because I was coming off the Xavier film stuff and then getting ready for Rice. So Lauren and I made an effort to go down there and grab him before he went in. So I got to just say hello and welcome him to the University of Houston and wish him all the best, and told him if there's anything that I needed, or I'm sorry, anything he needed or I could do for him, I would do it. And then I had to get back to the office.
Well, at the press conference, he mentioned the times that your team would come into New Orleans. He made it a point to go watch those games, but he also said that his goal was to have his football team play as hard as a football team as your team plays on the basketball court. I'm sure. I mean, you've talked to a lot of coaches on campus, but to hear a guy that comes in that respects your program and your style and what you want to accomplish and sort of wants to mimic it, that as far as the effort, what does that mean?
I think he just says he respects the way we play.
We will go to Starnes Leland from the Cougar. Starnes, go ahead with your question for Coach, please.
Morning, Coach.
Morning.
Emmanuel Sharp and Damian Dunn have sort of split games this season at starting. Has that been sort of a matchup dependent thing, or more something you see in practice, or something else?
Neither one. Just something I want to do. I don't think it has any relevance on anything. I wouldn't read anything into it. I haven't even decided who I'm gonna start tomorrow night. It'll be one of them. Doesn't really matter.
Thank you, Starnes. We'll go back to Chancellor Johnson, please. Chancellor, go ahead.
There we go. Kelvin, obviously every year is different and you don't know how your team will respond until they're in a situation, but going on the road like that at Cincinnati, a good team, really rowdy environment. What do you think your guys showed you in that win?
Well, I have a lot of games to draw from, Chancellor. I don't know what our road record is. I'd have to go back and think and count. But, traditionally, we've always been a pretty good road team here. Going to Oregon last year, I didn't know what to expect. That was the first road game. I had no idea. Well, I had a pretty good idea, but it was the first time looking at Jarris in a hostile environment. I think there was 14,000 people in Eugene, Oregon, packed that place to watch Houston and Oregon. And, we found a way to win the game. They kept switching defenses up. And early in the year, you never know how you're going to react to that, even as a coaching staff. I mean, I have to react to it. We don't zone. At some point, you got to put a zone offense in, right? Because they may zone. But I don't really worry about that stuff until you get closer to game day. And then right after that, I think I can't remember who we played first. No, I think we played Alabama at home, and then we went on the road to Virginia. But by then, I had a pretty good idea of what to expect. But you always expect to win the game. But with this team, we're not. The only guy that I was really curious about, there's two guys. I was curious about Damian, and I was curious about JoJo. I don't worry about LJ. He chose the perfect school for him. And that's really what it was. We didn't recruit LJ as much as LJ chose us. Like Kyler Evers chose us. Josh Carlton chose us. It's not like we went through this whole process of calling them and having them on multiple visits. It was kind of I want to come. You want me to come? Okay, let's go. It's not much more complicated than that. But the guy that's going to come the furthest, pointing out JoJo's mistakes is like, I'm drowning over here and you're telling me the water's wet. Of course he's going to foul. It's what he does. He's way better today than he was when we played the scrimmage back in October. You should have seen him then. You know, he's better than he was 2 weeks ago, and he's going to be better 2 weeks from now. But that kid has been running into people, grabbing them, holding them his whole life. You know, he plays like a cornerback. You know, trying to get off the wide receivers, trying to get off the line of scrimmage, and JoJo could teach those guys a thing or two about holding. But he's getting better. You know, you don't automatically become a senior your first road game. You know, Fabian didn't do that, but when Fabian was a freshman, nobody fouled more than Fabian White. We forget all that stuff. Well, you guys do. I don't. You know, I remember Fabian as a freshman. You should have seen Jamal when he was a freshman. You know, how many days I have to remind Jamal what color jersey we're wearing in practice? You know, whatever team he was on, he kept throwing it to the other team. But they're freshmen. Is JoJo going to miss free throws and foul a lot tomorrow night against Rice? Yes. Go ahead and mark it down. Why is JoJo not a better free throw shooter? Because he's a bad free throw shooter and he's going to get better. Well, how about why is JoJo fouling so much? JoJo is the foulingest dude in America right now. He will get better. It's the way it is. I don't worry about it. I just keep working at it. It'll come eventually. You don't hit delete and correct these mistakes. It's a process, and you got to be willing to go through the process. I remember that Fabian White kid from Atascocita. He got a lot better, didn't he? Well, this kid from Cy Falls is going to get a lot better too.